Cub fans, loyal Cubs fans. Another edition of the Cubs update. Yesterday on Sunday, Cubs played a ESPN primetime game, Sunday at 7 p.m., July 29th, and Cubs were able to beat the Cardinals 5-2. Much needed win after a couple of bad performing losses and some rough, tough pitching the last couple days. So it was great to see Hendricks. They did spot Hendricks. Sobers hit a solo home run in the top of the first, so Cubs got the early lead, 1-0. It was short-lived in the bottom of the first, giving up a two-run homer against Ozuna, uh, and it made you think like, oh no, here we go again. I was kind of worried with Hendricks coming in. He came back from the All-Star break on normal rest, 4 days off, and then this is his fourth game in a row. After third game after the All-Star break, and 4 games going on just 4 days rest, feeling like maybe they should have plugged in Hamels or give him more of a rest. But he ended up exceeding expectations. Once he got through that first inning, second inning, he gave up a double. But then after that, those were the only 4 hits he gave up. He walked no one. He ended up making it 7 innings. So no walks, 7 innings, and he retired the last 17 batters. So it was looking more like the professor of old. Could use that more out of him. And then he got run support. I mean, he was pitching with a 5-2 lead. Sobers got that early homer. Rizzo got a homer. Baez got a 2 RBI hit. So things were going pretty good. Cardinals made a couple bad defensive plays that really helped break out the tie from 2-2 to 5-2. And that seemed to be the difference. And then coming in the game was Edwards in the 8th. And he gave up a couple base runners, but he pitched around it. And then the 9th inning, Strop appears to be our closer until Morrow comes back. And so he got his 5th save of the year in it with a strikeout. So it was a pretty cool game to see. The only bummer was the had to wait through the rain delay. It was supposed to start at 7, and the game started at 8:24. So a lot of Cub fans were probably up pretty late, but it was well worth it. Never want to get swept by the Cardinals, and it's a little bit of a bummer still losing 2 out of 3, but that's all right. It was a pretty good day overall in the division because the Brewers got beat last night by the Giants 8-5. Cubs are up in the division 1.5 games, and then Pittsburgh, they're ahead by 7 games. Then they get a play at Pittsburgh the next 2 games, have a chance to put them more on life support in the division. And, it's looking like it's going to be a battle between us and Milwaukee. Milwaukee does play 4 tough games on the road against the Dodgers, so hopefully Cubs can take advantage. I feel like Cubs have some inferior teams they play in August, and they get a little bit of rest. I mean, only 3 days off, but it's kind of spread out. Like you play 9 games, you get a day off. That should help. I know looking at the bullpen options for Chicago, like right now Rosario is the only guy on the 25-man roster that was called up from Iowa this year. So it makes it interesting. Morrow has been out over 10 days. Haven't heard when he's coming back. It's been the 28th was the 10th day. So probably at this point, he'll probably have to make a rehab start or 2 to work his way up. So it might be another week or 2, but haven't heard an update. Be interesting. Yesterday we heard a pretty strong rumor that had some legs because it came from Tennessee Smokies Cubs AA affiliate announcer that Gio Barone, second baseman, that's he's not hitting for the best average, but he does have 22 doubles and 16 home runs. That he was pulled out of the game in the 3rd inning, and then teammates were hugging him. So it seemed to be signs that he was going to be traded. And then the rumors, he was linked to like a Miami closer, about 2 or 3 different relief guys. It doesn't appear Cubs have room to bring in another starter. but it was rumored that another relief guy was going to come, and I'm thinking, how's this going to work anyway? Two, you could send Rosario down for like 4 or 5 weeks for the month, and he can come up September 1st. But then you bring Morrow back, then one of the veterans. I think CJ might have minor league options, but I'm not sure because this is his fourth year. But his ERA is like under 3, so I mean, why would you want to send him down? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, Madden was even quoted that most likely we'll probably make another trade because that's what Theo does. So we'll see how we do it. Maybe someone goes on the DL with a injury. Looking at the weak links in the bullpen is, Dunsing's ERA is over 7. Cubs have went 3 games in a row without giving up a run in the bullpen. Dunsing, gave up that grand slam after Chatwood had another, 6 walk game. But Dunsing, he was their second best reliever last year. If he could survive the number crunch, maybe he can get it turned around next year. We'll see how that plays out. And you could consider Chatwood a weak link, or maybe a bad contract to give. 3 years, $37 million. I mean, do Cubs just give up on him? Does someone mysteriously go on the DL to make room for a new guy? If you can do that, then come September 1st, you expand to a 40-man roster, and then you have some more flexibility to where you could rest more bullpen guys, hopefully. But the other thing is balancing where we're at in the division. Too, we can't just put in, an Iowa call-up that's not as good when we have the division on the line, and it's still not a lock that we're in the playoffs right now. A game and a half over Milwaukee, and then if we were to slip to the wild card, we're only 3 games above the second best wild card team, Arizona, right now. So definitely not a lock that we're in the playoffs, but I think Cubs do control their own destiny, and they have more home games. They're better at home. Getting Chris Bryant healthy and playing good would help. Right now, Bodie is doing a heck of a job filling in. He had 2 hits yesterday. He's hitting .327. He's playing great defense. I definitely like his defense at third better than Hap. Hap, it's kind of driving me crazy. I feel like he should be just a left fielder, but then, Schwarber's doing pretty good. You could platoon those guys or give Hayward an occasional day off, but then, man, Hayward's doing pretty good at the plate overall, and he's playing Gold Glove defense the last few months again. So I guess he did lose a ball in the sun. I don't know why he lost like a couple balls in the sun this year. Kind of strange for a Gold Glove defender, but Cubs kind of have a good problem to have with these hitters, and so it'll be interesting to see how things play off. Right now, Cubs have Monday off, and the trade deadline is Tuesday at 3 p.m. So we'll see if they do make one more trade, and then we'll see how things play off with potential roster moves. I mean, there's always room for improvement. It's kind of a balance of trying not to mortgaging your future and being able to get better now. Milwaukee's made a few moves, to bring in, Moose to play third base, a power hitter. They made some pitching updates. So they had some injuries, so they felt like they needed to improve. Dodgers, the big one is now they're rumored maybe getting Bryce Harper. It's rumored Washington, they would see how they did over the weekend. They ended up splitting a series against Miami. So we'll see how that plays off. I know it's kind of disappointing to see teams just give up on the year, and that's kind of what some of these trades are when you trade one of your veteran guys to some of it's salary relief, but you're just like thinking about the future, bringing in some minor league prospects. So naturally, your record's probably going to go downhill the rest of the year. Right now, Washington's, it is a disappointing year. They're like a game under 500, but they're really not out of it yet. They're 6 games back in the division. I think they would need, a couple good winning streaks to get back in there. But I'm sure they can. Bryce Harper would demand a lot, and I guess they could kind of consider is he going to come back next year? But either way, they could try to re-sign him for free agency. But if they trade him, will that lose? Would that offend Harper, where he wouldn't want to come back to Washington? He's been rumored to be a Chicago Cub, maybe free agent next year, a good friend of Chris Bryant. That'd be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, he's too good of a player to be platooning with someone. You got Hayward, unless Hayward opts out of his contract. I don't think he's performed good enough to opt out of pretty good, 20 some million each year for the next 5 years after this. I just don't see him opting out, but we'll see. See how that plays out. If we did get Harper, then it seems like we would probably trade like a Schwarber or a Hap. So that would be interesting. Who knows? Maybe we'll trade Chatwood and try to get at least half his salary off the books. Dunsing is another weak link with over 7 ERA, and but he's got a team-friendly 2-year, $7 million contract. He did have the second lowest ERA last year in the bullpen, so maybe he could turn things around next year. So I don't know if they're just going to give up on him. We'll see if they DF a guy, but that trade rumor kind of died yesterday. Tennessee's own announcer said Gio Barone was going to get traded, and then like hours later we hear, it was a hamstring injury after he's seen hugging a lot of his teammates. So we'll see what happens. Go Cubs, go.